Well, good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Richard Cruz, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Captain Lisa Batchelor. We are honoured to acknowledge Her Excellency Mrs. Maria Angelina Lopez Cemento, First Vice President of the National Parliament of Timor-Leste, and the accompanying delegation. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors and students on behalf of Mitcham Primary School from Victoria. Australia's Federation Guard is a tri-service ceremonial unit of the Australian Defence Force. They provide a ceremonial presence at civil and military events and during visits to Australia by foreign dignitaries. The Guard will now dismount the catapult party from the tomb of the unknown Australian soldier within the Hall of Memory. I invite you all to please stand and join in singing the National Anthem.
Catapult party, present arms.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are young and free. We've golden soil and
Students, you may be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, as best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private George Humphrey Cowled. George Cowled was born in 1890 to Charles and Margaret Cowled of Illabo, New South Wales. He was born in Junee and attended school in Illabo before going on to work as a farmer like his father. Cowled enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force in March of 1916. He underwent a period of training in Australia before leaving for active service overseas with reinforcements to the 36th Battalion in September 1916. Private Cowled spent the bitterly cold winter of 1916 and 1917 in England, training in Tidworth near the Salisbury Plain. He finally joined his battalion in France in late March 1917. A month after joining his battalion, Private Cowled entered the front line at Le Touquet. 4 hours after the 36th Battalion took over the front line, the men came under a heavy artillery bombardment from the Germans. A German raiding party launched an attack, which was stopped by the Australian artillery. After 2.5 hours, the enemy barrage eased, leaving behind 5 killed and 15 wounded. One of those killed was Private George Cowled. He had been at the front for just 1 month. His remains were collected and buried in a row with the 4 other men killed in the bombardment. The chaplain who conducted the funeral service wrote to Cowled's parents in Australia to say, "On behalf of the officers and men of the battalion, as well as my own, I wish to express sincerest sympathy in your sad loss. It fell to my lot to conduct his funeral service, and I can assure you that his body was reverently laid to rest in a little cemetery known as the London Rifle Brigade Cemetery. Private George Cowled's epitaph reads, "For king and country he died. In God and in peace he lives." He was 26 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, amongst almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. A photograph of his headstone is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private George Humphrey Cowled, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Present arms.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget.
Catapult party, outwards, turn. Catapult party, quick, march.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes this evening's last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.